Hey everyone, this is Tim from Castle Homes. I just wanted to run through a scenario that we've all been thinking about regarding inventory and what happens when all of the properties that are currently behind in their mortgages, what happens when those start to come free into the market, and how will that impact the single-family housing market for the state of Massachusetts. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I pulled from the census that we had these three categories for mortgages. You either have a mortgage, you're going to get a mortgage, or your house is paid off and you do not have a mortgage. And so that amount totals, right, these three total $1,644,150. So those without a mortgage, obviously 518, and then this figure of $1,125,000 is just the total of these two. So we're roughly 31.5% paid off and 68.5% with some sort of mortgage. We're about to have a mortgage. And Black Knight tells us as of the end of February that we have a 5% delinquency rate. So that puts us at 5% of $1,000,001 is $56,274. Now, if you've been following along in the media, there is lots of rumblings about mitigation effects. What will the Biden administration do? What will the states do? What will even local cities do as far as mitigation efforts to help these people who have been victimized by the COVID-19 pandemic and are behind on their mortgages, presumably through a loss of a job and not just because they stopped paying because they could. Although I'm sure there is some of that. And so mitigation efforts seem like they're going to be either the bank just sort of forgives it, which seems somewhat unlikely without government support. The government just straight up pays the back mortgage or a percentage of it to the bank. Or I think what's most likely is that the banks will tack on the missing amount onto the back of the mortgage. So if you have a 30-year mortgage, you might now have a 35-year mortgage with that amount that you've missed over the past year tacked onto the back of it. Or, they recapitalize the whole thing, or, something like that. But they might spread it out to even out the pain that folks might feel. So with that, I don't have any idea what sort of support we're actually going to get. So I just made some guesses. 75% get listed, 50% get listed, 25% get listed, and just to sort of get a range. And that equals, so that's, these percents of this amount, 56,000. So that gets us to here. And of course, not every house is going to be listed in the same month, right? We're not going to get dumped of 42,000 houses in the same month. It's going to take time for all these to process. The banks can only argue so many cases in front of the courts. The courts can only hear so many cases in a day. And, we need to have a fair and open disposition of all these mortgages that are now in arrears. So I said, all right, so let's spread it over 6 months or 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. And it could even last longer than that. Don't know. This is all somewhat of a guess at this point. So if you take this number, which is 75% of this number, right, the total amount, and you spread it over 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, it makes a big difference. And how many houses might get listed. So there's a giant range of 7,000 are going to get dumped on the market every month, or, best case scenario, maybe it's 600. Who knows? And so then I looked at how many houses are new listings. And I just used a nice round number of 2020 for the COVID pandemic. And so the average between 2015 and 2019, this is for all months, none of this is seasonally adjusted, it's just a straight mathematical average, was 6,255. And then using 2020 through the last figures that I have is February 21 was 5,235. So we lost 120 houses. 1,020 houses per month as newly listed. So if again we take this top amount, right, here we are, new listings, we'll call this. So I'm just going to add this amount to this amount, right, because this is what we're starting from, 5,235. So when I do that, and again, we're spreading it over 6, 12, 18, or 24 months because we don't know what's going to happen or how fast these mortgages will process. So I take the 7,000 and add it to what we're currently listing, which is 5,235. And that brings me to 12,269. And that is change just from here, right? The 5,000 to the 12,000, it's 134% difference, which is a big dump. That's a large amount of houses to be listed all at once. So again, the 50% category, 90%, right? It's a 90% increase, which is again a big increase. And even at the 25%, 14,000 houses getting dumped onto the market over 3 months is 7,580, which is a 45% increase over this 5,000. And again, I put the 12-month, and this is the 12-month change. So if it takes a year for all of these to process, even at 75% of the 56,000, I think we can handle that. I think 8,000 a month is just fine as far as new listings. And I think it just continues to get better as either this number goes down or as the time frame gets longer. Okay, so then the next category is overall inventory, meaning how many houses were available throughout the month, not just new listings, but the entirety of the inventory. So meaning houses that have not sold in the prior month. They were a new listing, say in January, but now this month is February and it's still listed. It's not under any kind of contract, so that's still considered inventory, but it's not a new listing because the month has passed. So the average for the prior 4 years to the COVID is 15,482. And with COVID is 6,667. So even if you just look at this 15,482, you can see that even this worst case scenario of 12,264 or 9,000 or 7,000, if it all just gets dumped quickly, is not really that scary. Because we had great housing markets 2015 through 2019, and we averaged 15,000 houses a month. But with that, I again took this same chart, copied it down here, and right here I'm just adding 6,667, which is where we're coming from, to the 7,000, and that brings me to 13,700. That brings me on the 50% to 11,003, and the 25% 9,000. And obviously, the longer you spread that time frame out, the less daunting these look like. Unless we get back to a crazy demand where we have all of this plus all of this. I mean, if everyone just dumps their house on the market all at once, because we're in the good times now and COVID's over and it's time to move and party, that might be a different story. But assuming this holds or stays relatively flat, I think we really come up to here. And if any of this 13,000 scares you, again, we were at 15,000 before COVID. And I can show you here on this other sheet. So here we are in 2015. This is where my data starts. We had an inventory of 17,000, 25,000 houses in the summer of 2015. And it's not like we had a recession with housing prices. These were strong numbers. And again, looking over here, We have all this inventory. We have all this inventory, 13,000, 15,000, 17,000, 24,000. I mean, it's constant. It takes a dip here in the winter months, and then it comes back on strong. This is 15, 14, 10, 13, 14. And we had running 12-month price changes of, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3. We slowed down a little bit, but it never went negative. And then only here in COVID has things just gone absolutely bonkers. So for Massachusetts anyway, I don't know that we have a giant problem. And I really think that we're going to be just fine. Might not see these crazy price increases, but I do not believe that we're going to have a whole lot of problems. Thanks.